So today on the Convert with Confidence Summit, we welcome Aurora Winter to the summit. And I have just gone through her book briefly, but so powerful. You will just transform and you'll just feel different reading it. So Aurora is an award winner, best-selling author, TV writer, producer, media coach, and successful serial entrepreneur. So Aurora, would you mind first telling the audience what inspires you to do the work that you do?
Well, thanks for that introduction, Lydia. Well, I love helping people turn their words into wealth. And I just noticed that so many people had such great products and services to offer, but they went blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. They couldn't answer the simple question, what do you do? So they were sabotaging their success. So that's why I wrote the book, Turn Words into Wealth. And that's why I love to help people convey what they're up to with clear, concise, compelling language.
Yeah, I don't think often enough we go back and pause and reread what we send out.
Yeah. Blah, 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 blah is not what we want.
Yeah. And I know you have a background in neuroscience, and I want to point this out because, first of all, I'm sure the audience is already like, what does neuroscience have to do with like writing an email blast to my audience? Because isn't it about just like, let me type up a story, let me type up my marketing message and send it out. And then we wonder why nobody's clicking or nobody cares.
Yeah, exactly. Neuroscience, I took my MBA in 2015 with a focus on neuroscience, leadership, and coaching. And neuroscience is fundamental to any kind of engagement or communication or connection or an enrolling conversation when you're, asking for a sale. It's so important to understand neuroscience and the sequence of communication that will serve you. So university has misserved so many of us because we basically learned something wrong. And then the false thing that we learned was if we send somebody else the verbal equivalent of an Excel spreadsheet, that they will open it and understand it. And that is not how people work. So in my book, Turn Words into Wealth, I go into this in great deal of depth, which we probably won't be able to do in our little half hour here, but real quick, you want to first attract the croc brain. That's your $1 million message. That's the attention getting, alluring thing. Mm-hmm. Second, you want to address the midbrain, which is who are you? What is the status? People are very oriented to, are you in the in group or the out group? So the midbrain is the next part that you need to address, and that's status. So that would be, for example, my books have won 10 awards in 2021, or my books have, been endorsed by Dr. Wayne Dyer. So what does that tell you? That tells you other people that you might respect or admire say Aurora's okay, or Lydia's interviewing me. So that's also the midbrain. It's about people. And then you get into the Game of Thrones crown, the room where you've got the king and queen, so to speak. Then you can communicate that Excel spreadsheet, but only in little tiny sound bites. Yeah. You need to, wait for engagement, or it's off with your head.
Yeah. I think often we are wondering why we're not getting a whole lot of engagements. And really, it's one thing I have noticed, what has changed and transformed the engagement I get with my marketing is as I'm writing, I kind of bounce it off myself.
Yeah.
So it is more emotionally draining. Like I'm actually drained at the end of writing a lot of copy, but it's because as I'm writing and I'm like, how does that feel? How does that feel? How does that feel?
It's really good to say it out loud and to feel in your body how it actually feels. Because when we just type away, especially if you're a fast typist, you can be blathering on forever. So $1 million message is really key to generating $1 million. And in my book, Turn Words into Wealth, I go into 7 different proven recipes where people have generated 7 figures from their $1 million message. But you asked me, what is $1 million message? It is clear, concise, compelling. It's a vivid word picture. It evokes emotion. It attracts attention. So a couple of examples of $1 million message would be Seth Godin's book, Purple Cow. Whoa, what do you mean, Purple Cow?
Pattern interrupt, right?
Pattern interrupt. Tim Ferriss's book, The 4-Hour Workweek. What do you mean?
No way.
Right? My book, Turn Words into Wealth. It's very short and it's clear what it's about and what the benefit is. I have another book called Grief Relief in 30 Minutes. What? 30 minutes? that's attracts attention. I launched a business from nothing to a multi-million-dollar business on this $1 million message: 5 weeks of sun, fun, and tax shelter. What? What do you mean sun, fun, and tax shelter? We sold yachts as tax shelter with tax shelter benefits. So those are examples of $1 million message, that unexpected element, but also very concise. Brene Brown, power in vulnerability, or famously Steve Jobs, when he was launching an Apple product, the iPod, 1,000 songs in your pocket. So I'd love everybody listening to just pause for a minute and think, well, how could I convey what I'm up to in a brief phrase that captures attention? And that $1 million message can make a phenomenal difference to your bottom line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know one thing that's, and this audience can take this away, and I don't know, Aurora, if this is what you do, but like I'll type out my copy and then I go back and just tighten it up, like getting rid of like a lot of linkage words I may not need, or and sometimes maybe. I know since a lot of this audience struggles with being direct, I think that's often a fear of people being direct. Because I know me personally as a business owner in the past, I struggled with like being a people pleaser and being nice. And of course, being nice doesn't, I think, just to quote my coach, like being nice doesn't make you money.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, going back, and are you using more passive language versus direct? And I don't think there's like a right or wrong. It's just like, but when it comes to sales, right, if you want people to take action.
Well, if we're being nice, we're probably watering down our words so that everything is lukewarm. Is that the response that you'd like? Lukewarm response? No, you would like the people who don't like you to go, yeah, delete. And you'd like the people who are your tribe to go, abso-friggin-lutely. So we want, and again, it's university and high school that has taught us to modify our words and say, well, maybe sometimes, when it ends up in the gray zone. For media, you want, or for catching attention, you want to take a stand. You want to be bold. You don't want to obviously lie or say anything inauthentic, but 5 weeks of sun, fun, and tax shelter is a good example. It's like, what do you mean? Oh, it actually, they could have 10% personal use. 10% of 52 weeks is 5 weeks. It takes a bit of explaining, but that is true that they could have sun, fun, and tax shelter in 5 weeks. So what's your purple cow? What's your 4-hour work week? Like Tim Ferriss often has to, explain or defend the 4-hour work week. Don't do that. Just go with your core idea. Let it be bold. Let it be decisive. Let it be like, what? You would rather catch people's attention and then have a conversation and explain than have your first volley bland. Don't be bland. Don't be boring. Don't be forgettable. Don't be like everybody else.
Yeah, I think a lot of coaches, especially if they're getting started, there's a fear around putting themselves out there, or maybe being seen and being heard. And that's why we end up like kind of watering down our language. Like I know a lot of emails that end up in my spam box are going to be things like, hey, I hope you're having a nice day. I'm just want to follow up with you. Hope you're doing well. They're not direct.
Exactly. So part of that is really owning your own value and knowing who your ideal customer is, and knowing that you're really providing value and you're not bothering people by offering them this wonderful opportunity, whatever that opportunity may be, as a coach. So we could get into that a little bit later about the enrolling conversations, or we can jump into it now if you'd like.
Yeah, sure. We can. I know. Let's talk about the power of that type of language when it comes to, the theme of this summit being convert with confidence. What if you're showing up to these, it's like what ends up being like a 30-minute call for some people, maybe 15 minutes, maybe an hour, but how we set the tone at the beginning is going to be the tone for the rest of the time together. And we can often show up like, so how's your day? And, just being very, it's more like you're coming off of like a friend versus a coach or a leader or an authority in your niche. And I'm curious, how, is there maybe like one tip that you can give this audience so that we can start to maybe sound more like an authority in our, whatever it is we're putting out, or a social media post, or an email marketing post, or even just getting on that phone, or
let's talk about getting on the phone, because I think that's something that people botch frequently by doing what you just said. They start the call off with chit chat, and they end up in a lower status position. And they also are not respecting the other person's time. So one of the key things to do, framing, is decisive. So right at the beginning of the call, frame it. This is a 30-minute call. I'd love to serve you. Here's the game plan for the call. Does that work for you? They say yes, then you get a buy-in. They say no, well, maybe this is not worth having the call. Right? So right away, frame the call, talk about the objectives and how you're going to handle it, and then take charge of that call and walk them through whatever your enrolling conversation process is. The other key thing is, I'd love people to remember, an enrolling conversation or a sales call with a prospect is a two-way yes is required. You are also assessing, is this client a good fit for you? Are they a great fit for you? Or are they not going to be a good client? So if you only have the mentality that this call is about, please, 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 I need to pay my mortgage and I'll take anybody, that is a pathetic energy for a sales call. If instead you are genuinely asking questions to assess what their problem is and understand if that is a problem that you solve for them, and then you explain how you would create that transformation or create that problem to solution benefit, then and you also ask them qualifying questions to make sure that they're going to, whatever your top 3 criteria are. So for example, in my business, I help people turn their words into wealth. My typical client already has a 7 or 8 figure business. So my typical client, is investing thousands of dollars with me. So if somebody has got a brand new business and they don't have any income yet, they're not ready for my help learning how to be on the TED stage, or learning how to pitch to raise capital, or learning how to turn their great ideas into a book. So that wouldn't be a good fit for either of us. So, but think about that for your own business. When the common objection comes up, it's too expensive. Don't take that personally. Maybe it is too expensive for this person. So get really clear on who your ideal client is. If the person is on unemployment insurance and they don't have a job, it may be too expensive. And so that's fine. Assess your ideal client, but also get really clear on what is your value proposition. So my clients, while they typically, will invest 5 or 6 figures with me, they're generating 7 or 8 figures. So it's a 10x ROI. So I'm solid in that. I know that. Some of the people who've come to me have raised, 8 figures because they got $1 million message, a multi-million-dollar message. Okay, but for anyone, think about your products, thinking about your services, think about your coaching if you're a coach, and be really clear on the value, that you provide.
I think oftentimes we try to sell to everybody. And so we sell to nobody. We're like, well, I can help them. And this is one of the biggest mistakes I made as an early coach. I can help them. I can help them. I can help them. And while that may be true, we forget that, like, wait a minute, does that person want to be helped? Are they, because isn't that important, right? Doesn't your client want to be helped?
Yeah, it's kind of key. Otherwise, you're really going to be frustrated dealing with them. That's for sure. But let's talk a little bit more about the value of $1 million message. Most people are spending almost all of their time perfecting their product and service, or working on their social media, but they're not thinking about their message. They spend little time on their message, but the people who excel, the top 10%, spend a lot of time thinking about and perfecting their message. For example, Steve Jobs, while he was running Apple, super busy guy, he spent 3 weeks perfecting his pitch for each Apple launch. 3 weeks. When was the last time you spent 3 weeks on your message? Well, obviously it was worth, many millions to him to do so, but it will translate to your business too. I love this book, Significant Objects. They studied 100 different unique objects on eBay, with a message or without a message. And the messages were not all written by the same person. They were written by 100 different authors, and they added significance and meaning. They didn't say, buy now, or else you're running out. No, last one.
Urgent now, ends on Friday.
Yeah, they were not that kind of hype. They simply added significance. So for example, one thing that I remember, there was some pot holders that were for sale, and the message on eBay about that was, I remember, these are my grandmother's. I remember she used to bake chocolate chip cookies, and I can still, remember the smell of the cookies as they came out of the oven and crunching into the sweet, gooey chocolate chip cookies. And here are the pot mitts. Well, how much do you think adding a story added to the bottom line? How much did it increase the value? Do you want to hazard a guess, Lydia, or do you remember from reading my book?
I remember that section on storytelling, and I like, even as you're talking about the chocolate chip cookies, I'm like, where can I get some now? That's literally the question that popped up. So yeah, let's touch on this, like, because this is such a powerful way. And I know as a hypnotist, it's a powerful way to appeal to what we're talking about here, like the reptilian part of the brain, or the subconscious, right? Is what exactly, like, how are stories effective when it comes to, let's say, a sales or enrollment conversation?
Yeah, exactly. They're very effective, because that's how we process information. Stories add meaning. Human beings are meaning making machines. And even as I talked about the chocolate chip cookies and the smell and the taste and the crunch and the gooiness of the chocolate, probably your saliva is going. Like, we are multi-sensory beings. So by adding stories to these objects for sale, they sold for 27 times more than the exact same objects without a story. So what is the point about this? The point is, it is worth your while to double down on your message and really consider what is the most effective way to communicate, and how can you make it sharper? How can you make it more clear, more concise, more compelling, more visceral, more visual, more tactile, right? So that's what I love to help people do with their $1 billion message. And your $1 million message you'll have more than one. But one of the ones I love people to have is, their own story of transformation, their reason why they're up to whatever they're up to. And I'd love to hear from yours if you want to share, Lydia. But it's also the stories of the transformation that we provide for our clients or our patients or our customers. So when you talk, for example, one of my clients are their dentists. I helped them write a book, which is called Keys to a Healthy Smile After 40. They attracted more lucrative clients, and their business grew from 1.5 to $6 million. Wow. Okay, so that's a very short story. I could tell it with more details. I can tell it with less details. That's an example of a story that you should have many of those kinds of stories of the transformation that you have provided for your clients. And that's very compelling. That's very magnetic and attractive when people understand what you're up to and how it helps others.
Mm-hmm. And then they can also relate. And as you were talking, I was just thinking back, because I was thinking back to all of the social media posts that I put out there, to, like, maybe some of you coaches out there, like, you put out a post to try to get a sale, or you're trying to get engagement. And one of the most powerful posts I've ever gotten so much engagement back on was when I shared a story of my weight loss journey. I mean, this must have been 15 years ago or something. And I was just like, I put a before and after picture, and I just said, here's where I used to be, self-esteem, blah, blah, blah. And here's where I am now. And I mean, I must have gotten over 100, 200, 300 comments, likes. And I was like, wow, that is a great example of telling a story. And what does that let people know? That it's possible for you too. They see, right? They can see that where you started and then where you are now, like, is probably beyond what they can even measure.
Yeah. Lydia, that's such a great example. So you're willing to share a personal, vulnerable, and authentic story of your weight loss journey, and you got a ton of response. So that's one of the keys, I think, to having a great $1 million message, is to become the authentic expert. So you want to balance the authenticity, as Brene Brown says, there's power in vulnerability. So you were vulnerable, and yet if you were, bleeding all over the page, that would not be compelling or magnetic. So we want to combine the authenticity with the expertise. So you have expertise as a coach, as a hypnotist, hypnotherapist. You also have expertise in weight loss, right? So you want to balance the expertise with the humanity. And that is what is, super compelling. And I find people, usually they make mistakes in one of those two areas. They're either trying to be like a Fortune 500 company, where it's me, myself, and I. So don't do that. Double down on being human, and you'll attract people who hate dealing with dial 9 for this, dial 14 for that. And then they hang up on you, right? There's disadvantages to those big companies. And then the other thing is, become an expert in something so that you can really serve people powerfully. So that's, really, really key to become the authentic expert.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so important. I love how you brought up the topic of authenticity. And I think a lot of us struggle to tap into our authentic self. I know one way I do it is, again, I internalize, I feel what I'm writing and I read it back to myself. Do you have any other tips on how we can maybe connect to ourselves? Is like, let's say we are writing some copy. That's just the way I've gone about doing it. But do you have like one maybe tip or strategy to help us tap into writing authentically?
Well, I have two tips, actually. First, check in with yourself and see, is this a journey that I have come through, that I'm on the other side of it now? Because if not, it might not be the right time to share, because you want to be an authentic expert, not an authentic victim.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's very important to check in with that. So, for example, I have a book called From Heartbreak to Happiness, an intimate diary of healing. And it's my diary of healing after my husband died suddenly right in front of me when he was 33 and our son was 4. But I was through that journey. I was in the happiness part of that journey. And I also, coached people through grief at the point when the book was released or when I would talk about it. So first, make sure that you've come through it so that it's not 2 people drowning in the ocean, but that you can say, hey, I was drowning, but now I am a certified lifeguard and I can help you if you are drowning. And then the second thing, once you know that you are a good lifeguard and you can help people who are where you were, who are suffering in the way that you were suffering before, then the second thing to do is basically to bleed on the page. So write it down, read it out loud. Do you have a catch in your throat? Do you have emotion alive in you? Or is it all in your head? If it's all in your head, try again.
And thinking, right?
Thinking, right. And you don't need that many words, but check in. Have you touched on all of the senses? Smell, touch, sight, emotion. Like, just see if you've touched on all of the senses, because probably you're mostly communicating just visually or just one way. And if you can add more senses, it'll make, without your story being longer, it'll make it much more appealing to more people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And as a, having a background in hypnosis, I can totally back up everything. Like all of this, like when I'm speaking to a client, I can't assume that they are really just visual or they're really just auditory, or how they process information, or maybe they're more auditory than visual. Like, we're all different, right? But when you can appeal to all the different senses, especially when you're talking about food, right? Of course, appeal to taste and smell, and here we go. Now I'm like, where are the chocolate chip cookies? But it's such a powerful way to write, right? Is to appeal to all the ways we process information, and including that creating discomforts, right? Maybe I think a lot of us struggle with our own discomfort. And so we struggle with when we put our clients in discomfort. And I have found that to be the most rewarding place for people to transform. But we're struggling in our own discomfort. Like, oh, I feel icky charging this amount of money. And so they're going to feel icky, buying something that's of that cost. But it's really, kind of turning up the pain, right? But then giving them a way out, right?
Exactly right. Like, being nice is not effective. Telling the truth is effective. So that can be very confronting when we're willing to tell the truth about ourselves, or willing to ask a question to a client that will invite them to confront the truth if they're willing in that moment.
Yeah.
So be willing to let there be that silence. And if this is on a one-on-one call with a coaching client, those can be some of the most powerful moments. Client says something and you think that's not serving them, just ask, is that true? And then wait. Don't say more things.
I think we try to put out the fire. We try to put out our anxiety, and we well, hang on. I mean, when we sugarcoat it, and then we just blow the whole thing up, and it's stop trying to. It's this rescuing. We try to rescue maybe our customers from themselves. When I have found, me just personally, I have found it more powerful for them to sort of fall and then realize okay, just tap into that real source of pain. Again, going back to neuroscience, why are they there in the first place?
The way that I do it is by reminding myself that every person has greatness within them. Each person has divine potential. And if I am feeling called to be nice or to sugarcoat it, what am I doing? I am treating them as flawed and mediocre. Mm-hmm. But if I want to really be a great coach or be a great contribution, I will see that person's greatness and call it forth. So that's the opposite of sugarcoating in my view. But you have mentioned a couple of times, I know that, we want to help people convert with confidence. And a couple of times you've mentioned some issues about enrolling conversations. I'd like to double down on, there's 2 key factors to enrolling. Obviously, one is you've got to have your right message, but the other thing is your own mindset it's so important. I can't think of a big enough word to emphasize it. So you are the prize. You are delivering value. If you're not delivering value, then you haven't done the expert step. Become an expert who can deliver value. But I'm assuming that everybody listening to this has some value. They have experience. They provide a transformation that's valuable. And so you're not, asking for somebody to do you a favor. You are offering them, a Tesla. You're offering them a Tesla. A Tesla is a beautiful thing. Some people will buy it. Some people won't buy it. Some people love, what Elon Musk stands for. Others don't. But just be the prize. Be certain that whatever you are offering is worth 10 times what you are asking. And then, maybe they want the Tesla, maybe they don't want the Tesla. Maybe they'd rather buy a Ford. Maybe they'd rather buy an electric bicycle. That doesn't have anything to do with you. Just be clear and clean about what you provide. So for example, when I was coaching clients and training coaches at the Grief Coach Academy, the data is that without coaching, people will suffer on average from 5 to 8 years from a devastating loss, like the loss of a spouse, the loss of a child, the loss of a career, and the identity that went with that. 5 to 8 years, but with the right coaching, I can get them through this in a matter of months. I'm so solid, and that is a great value proposition. It's like a Tesla, though. Not everybody's going to say yes. That doesn't mean I need to reduce my prices or run chasing after that person. It might mean that I am looking in the wrong place. So one of the other mistakes that I see marketers make is they're only doing digital marketing. Digital marketing is great, but it's also transient. Lots of times, I'll watch a video and then a week later I'll be like, I don't remember how I found that video or who that was, they're kind of like a dream. If you combine online marketing with offline marketing, or you combine digital with physical product, then you have a master plan that can really take your business 10x. So for example, Amazon is the number 3 search engine. So a lot of people are spending a ton of money on Facebook ads, on Google ads, on YouTube ads, on Instagram ads. And maybe you're interrupting people. Oftentimes you're interrupting people. People go to Amazon to buy, and they're looking for solutions to their problem. They probably already have their credit card pre-installed. So it's very easy for people to invest in a $20 book that offers the solution to their problem. And I've had people call me 5 years after they've bought that book because it's still sitting on their bookshelf. And it is a silent salesperson working for me. And I've had, invitations to speak, invitations to contribute to Chicken Soup for the Soul book, for example, or clients just from a book. So consider, how can you combine physical with digital? How can you combine online with offline? Because you might be fishing in the wrong pond. And I think, obviously not everybody is at that level of expertise, but once you have a level of expertise and your business is going well, then as a coach, a consultant, an entrepreneur, a leader, or somebody who wants to start a movement, get a book. It could be a short one on Amazon and let people around the world find you that way.
Yeah. It's a powerful way to create authority as well. Being,
yeah.
As we're talking about converting with confidence here.
Yeah.
Creating that authority is someone seeing that you've put all of your expertise into, and you spent time investing in yourself and creating a book and putting it out there. And that already speaks volumes. And again, I love that idea of having something offline as well as online. And I'm sure maybe some people here have thought about writing a book, and it's a nice idea, but I'm sure a lot of work goes into it. But I'm sure there's easier ways to go about it. what I'm thinking about, because I personally hate writing. Like, I am not a writer. My English is like scribble, and I'm skipping over words. But I'm sure there's easier ways of going about it today.
Yeah. Well, that's why I wrote this little book. It's called Marketing Fast Track, the little book that launched a new business, $250,000 in 90 days. And that's actually my gift for people, the ebook version of that. But what I like to help people do is capture their own energy, their own stories in their own voice. And so we do it on a Zoom call. So I just interview them, kind of like what you're interviewing me, and pull out those stories. And then my team and I turn that into a book. But Marketing Fast Track, it generated $250,000 in 90 days from new business, not from book sales. And it was based on a 1-hour interview. So it's a very short book, but that's fine. It helped me understand, would people be willing to invest in getting me to help them with their marketing and their messaging? And it helped me pivot my business from training coaches at the Grief Coach Academy to launching Same Page Publishing, which is what I do now. So you can also use a short book to test if you can pivot, and of course to build your email list. When I first launched that book, the print book was offered for free. People would just pay shipping and handling, and that built my email list. And then they got follow-up sequence of 5 videos to add more value. And then they were invited to have a business breakthrough call. Today, I'm not doing it that way. You can just get the free ebook, because a lot of people have the e-readers now. So they can go to marketingfasttrack.com. Thanks to you, Lydia, and they can get that bonus gift of the ebook version of Marketing Fast Track, as well as the follow-up videos, so they can see a marketing funnel, and that can hopefully inspire them to create their own.
Yeah, maybe compare it to what you're doing now. So go get this. This is a free gift. So scroll to the bottom of this page, go click the link. The link's only available for the next 48 hours. So from when this email was sent out. So scroll to the bottom, click the link below to go get this Marketing Fast Tracked free ebook to help kick off your marketing. Maybe you need help with your messaging. Maybe you need to know what the best way to market is for you. So let's shuffle through all of the chaos here. And is there anything else in the ebook that you can tell us that would maybe help these coaches in the place of enrollments?
Yeah, I'd like to let them know that the Marketing Fast Track book was a Gold Book Award winner in the fall of 2021 from Pinnacle Book Awards, the best business book. So it's not some schlocky thing. It's really valuable, and it will help you learn how to build a lead magnet, which can be just a short book. It could even be an ebook. It could even be a PDF, that you use to build business. And I did the book, the first version of it, in a weekend. So it doesn't have to take you a year. also, I love to demonstrate, to model that it can be based on a conversation. And what I love about conversations, like the one that we're having, Lydia, is it's easy to have a conversation. It's easy to answer questions on your area of expertise, and it's very engaging. People really don't want to read books with footnotes and all kinds of academic words. They just want a little taste of what you're up to. So think of your short book as an appetizer. So in Marketing Fast Track, which is your gift, if you click on the link below, you'll learn 3 marketing mistakes that even smart people make and what you should do instead, how to use a short book to attract new business, the benefits of becoming a published author and taking advantage of the #3 search engine in Amazon, and how to create a book the easy way by speaking rather than typing, and more. So I think people will really enjoy the book, as well as the free video sequence that will help them with their marketing as well.
That's really exciting. I mean, yeah, for those of you who are thinking about ebooks, I think we're all doing ebooks at this point, or some sort of or maybe like a cheat sheet or something like that. And this is going to help you pump that up to make it even more appealing, to make sure you're speaking to the right audience as well. So go click the link, go get this free gift. And Aurora, I want to thank you so much for your time here. What a conversation. So by the way, how she speaks here, how powerful this is also reflected in her book, Turn Words into Wealth. So super powerful book. So go get that off Amazon as well. Like, it's just, you're going to feel it. Like if you're like, what are they talking about? Go read the book and you'll feel like, you'll start to notice all these unconscious things happening within inside of you as you're reading. And that can be a great example to help you with your writing as well.
Oh, thanks for that, Lydia. Yeah. Turn Words into Wealth is the full meal deal on how to create 7 figures with your $1 million message. So
let's do it. I think we're all ready for that.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks so much, Lydia.
Thanks, Aurora. Thanks everyone for joining us.